Hey y'all. We're gonna get into this episode of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, season 11, episode 7, titled Sorry Not Sorry. I'm gonna try and do a double live type thing tonight. I know I've been slacking. I'm gonna try and do the other episode tonight too, but if you can just catch this one, that would be cool. And if you enjoy this live, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, let's get into it. So they continue off with Scrappy and Sierra arguing, and Sierra telling him to put on the Bible about him and Diamond. And he's like, he will, and then he pulls out his phone, but he never has any receipts every time he pulls out his phone. And then in his confessional, Scrappy says that he's done he's done with the pregnant rumors, and he tells Sierra that whoever, and wherever they are, they just need to stay out of his business because they can do what they want, but they just need to leave him alone. Scrappy says Sierra ain't his bitch, so he don't have to argue with her. And then she turns around and she's like, bitch. And then she tells Scrappy to choose his words correctly. And then she says to him that she has no respect for him. And he tells Sierra that he don't have any for her either. And then in her confessional, Sierra says, who is Scrappy talking to, and that they're not going to be getting down like that. And then she tells Scrappy to back up. And he tries to apologize for calling her a bitch. But then Sierra tells him, nah, you called me a bitch, but I'm a rich one, so don't forget that. And Scrappy is like, and I'm a rich nigga. And not according to Bam, because she's saying that you don't even got two pennies to scratch together. So let's not lie now. But Sierra tries to like nudge Scrappy away, and he pushes her arm out the way and then tells Sierra, not to put her hands on him. And Sierra just keeps pointing at Scrappy, saying, look at him, you know, and antagonizing him kind of. And here goes Scrappy saying, that he can do the same thing that women do, and starts mimicking Sierra, talking about something, look at her. And Sierra says, this nigga really want to fight me. Who does that? And Scrappy says he doesn't want to fight her, but all the while, Chaotic is trying to break it up, and he keeps telling Scrappy to calm the fuck down. And then in his confessional, Chaotic says Sierra, needs to mind your business, and says that these ladies don't understand what Scrappy's going through, and that he's trying to get his life in order. Chaotic says, do they really think Scrappy wants to hear them telling him he's not doing this and that, and he not shit, and that he's not doing for his kids? And I mean, I get it, that part of where Chaotic's coming from, like Scrappy already feeling worse, so don't kick somebody while they down. But maybe them niggas was just drunk and just I don't know. But when Sierra does this, it's really annoying because it's like first Erica did it, Erica Mena, and now Sierra, and it's like they all barking and being like, Bambi's little chihuahua yelling pets going to go nip at Scrappy and shit. And I get it, Bambi and Scrappy probably just don't want to see each other. But some of this stuff definitely feels projected, and I really feel like Sierra's taking out some of that stuff she got going on with Eric, taking it out on Scrappy. And I get it, sometimes you do that, but that's not fair. It was too much. They was both wrong. But then Chaotic tells Scrappy that, the women have formed a cult against him, and tells Scrappy that he has to figure out a way to get through it to them without all the extra shit. And then Sierra sitting in her car on the phone crying, telling whomever is on the phone that Scrappy really just did the most. And Scrappy shouldn't have called her out her name or nothing like that. But I feel like she did provoke him, and I know she was trying to stick up for Bam, but I'm not really feeling that. But anyways, we get to Yandy, and Lil Mendices are doing a little TikTok dances and shit, and to promote their products. And Lil Mendices calls Yandy old, and in her confessional, she says something that's important to her is making money in her sleep, so they got to get it together, to sell the products. And then Mendices comes in all somber and shit, and they asking him like, what's wrong with your face? Why you looking like that? And then he says that after he did the interview with Shannon Sharp, they took the one thing he said about his mom the wrong way, and now it's all over the place. And his mom called him upset, asking, how could he say something like that? Yandy is like, well, what did you say? And Mendici says that Shannon asked him about his life as, a hustler, and said he told him about when he put his mom up for collateral. And then Mendices tells Yandy and Lil Mendices that, when you're doing business like that and you're meeting someone, they want to know where your peoples live so, you don't run off and shit. And he says that at the time, the closest thing to him was his mom. He says that he said in the interview was how it was messed up for him to say that, and he mentioned it because, or messed up for him to do that, scenario because he was trying to make a point, but it just seems like it just really hurt his mom. Yandy asked Medicis if he felt like the interview overall was horrible, and he says no. He just wishes he could have taken back what he said, mentioning his mom. In her confessional, Yandy says the last time Mendices decided to get up and talk about his life, his mom was very upset. And then they show a clip of Mendices telling everybody in the room that growing up, his mom wasn't always there, and it had him and his brother messed up. And then his mom gets up and leaves the room. And Yandy continues to say in her confessional that Mendices really hates um digging deep when it comes to that kind of stuff, but he wants to be impactful, and if he wants that, he has to live in his truth and get through it. And then in his confessional, Mendici says that he went to prison for 5.5 years, and then they show an old clip of when Mendici was turning himself in and saying bye to his son and Yandy. And then he says that that was one of the hardest things he had to endure, and says it's hard to be vulnerable because he felt like he did the best with the opportunities he's had, but he's trying to tell young men out there that there's another way. Yanni tells Mendices she can only imagine what's being said on the blogs, but she and Lil Mendices know what's in his heart, so he don't have to be walking around like his world is over. Mendices says that he's even upset it even came out, and the last thing he wants to do is hurt his mom, and that they were in a good place, and he feels like this situation set them back because they already have a tough relationship. Mendices says that he's gonna go to New York to make it right with his mom, and he'll figure it out later. And I'm not gonna lie, it looked like he was about to cry for real, for real. So I felt bad for that part. And then Lil Mendices tells him, it'll be fine and not to worry. And then in his confessional, Mendices says that he thinks anytime he tells a story from, back in the days, he's gonna hurt his mom because the truth isn't pretty, and he's accepted it. He just doesn't believe that his mom has accepted it yet. And now that scene is over, and we get with Spice. And in her confessional, she says she came back from the Cayman and she feels better, but she's not 100% confident in her health and where she is. So she's going back to the doctors to get the stent removed, and says that it's one of those hurdles to get back to her old self. And she tries to tell herself she's going to be okay. Poor Spice is going through it this season, man. I don't know what to do. Somebody just, hug her for me. But while in her car, she says 6 procedures is a lot, and can, someone go under anesthesia so many times. And she says it has to, mess with you somehow. And in her confessional, she says she doesn't think anyone can understand the anxiety that's coming over her because 6 months ago she was in the hospital thinking she was gonna die. So she's very traumatized when it comes to any surgery, and she just doesn't know how healthy she is. Spice tells herself that she's gonna be all right over and over, and then her sister reaches up for her, and they hold hands. And then it says it's 3 hours later, I guess, after her appointment, and Spice is crying, saying that her doctor found that, another hernia. And in her confessional, she says the doctor told her he couldn't remove the stent because she has another hernia. And Spice says, knowing what she went through with her first one to finding out, she has another one, it's hard to process, knowing that she could really die any minute. And I just feel so bad, like she can't take no more. I know this is stressful because when your health is all over the place, it's out of your control. As much as you want to just get up and, feel like you're okay. It's just, it don't work. And poor Spice just been going through it. But her sister tells their brother that she now has two hernias. And in her confessional, Spice says she has no idea how she's going to handle going through it again. And it's just so much going on in her life. And she prays God can take control of this situation because she can't take much more. And then her family are walking out of the hospital, and her sister and her are crying. And Spice is saying, how many times is she going to go through this? And she don't know how much more she can bear. And I just, poor thing, because I get it. And then when she's in the car, she asks the Lord, why her? And then her brother tells her that God only gives his strongest soldiers the hardest battles. And that is the motherfucking truth. That is the truth. And it's crazy how that works, but it's the truth. Um, but now we're with Miss Jessica White, Miss Almost Baby Mama by Nick Cannon. In her confessional, she says she hasn't seen the ladies in a while and she wanted to reconnect. And what better way to do that than a yoga retreat, to release. And Jess and Erica Mena hug, and then Amy and Jess meet and hug. And in her confessional, Amy says that after hitting it off with Erica Mena at South by Southwest, Erica invited her to have, a kumbaya with the ladies. And she says she's excited and she feels it's definitely what, they need right now. And then Jess tells the ladies that yoga is good for, a woman's body without overworking yourself and is more gentle. Amy says, that's right on time for her because she needs it. And then Yandy shows up, and in her confessional, Jess says that moving to Atlanta and hearing so many positive things about the women with her, going through all her health issues, she says that she just feels like she needs to connect herself with them. Don't get too comfortable now, Jess. Don't get too comfortable because these bitches will switch up quicker than you can blink. But then Amy and Yandy meet up, and then Bambi shows up, and the instructor does the sound bath, and only Amy, Jessica, and Bambi are taking it seriously, while Yandy is making faces, and Erica Mena is taking pictures. But then Sierra shows up, and then in her confessional, Sierra says after, all the crazy shit that happened with Scrappy, she needs this yoga day. But when she walks in, she's like, what the fuck's going on? And that is giving Illuminati, and says, she do be feeling a little weird and awkward, but she's gonna let Jessica do her thing. Girl, get the fuck on. You just irky and annoying. Just stop. Um she wasn't ever my fave, and I tolerated her because of the whole shooter thing. Because I feel like he was fucked up, but the way she was handling with that girl was cool. But don't come in here and talking about the sound bowls and shit, girl. Because you and Yandy, all the shit y'all been through, y'all need to sit around some crystals and decompress. Because the fuck, whatever y'all doing ain't been working. Well, maybe Yandy's been working, but not you, Sierra. You all fucked up all over the place. Um, but then in her confessional, Yandy says that she loves Jess, but this, hippie sound and shit is not her, and that she didn't have that type of stuff in Harlem. And then she kind of like mimics, some humming sounds. Like, girl, get the fuck on. And like she says she didn't have that stuff in Harlem, but maybe if y'all did, y'all niggas in New York wouldn't have been so wild over there. Like, cause it's definitely needed in Atlanta. Like, that's why I said, I think in my last review, y'all, it's too many niggas in Atlanta. It's getting crowded and claustrophobic, and y'all all sharing the same air. It ain't enough. It ain't enough because there's too many niggas down there. But then Jess brings out the drinks, and then Bambi is like, why does Sierra and Amy got two drinks? And Sierra says it's because they Geminis and they need it. Now that makes a lot of fucking sense for Sierra, for sure, for sure. Now I ain't seen Amy's side yet, I guess, but that definitely makes a lot of sense for Sierra. But Bambi says, she's the person that's going through a divorce, and then Rasheeda walks in all late. Bam, we know you're going through a divorce. You don't have to keep throwing it in like that. Like, we know. And ain't nobody going to keep giving you pity but these chicken heads you got as friends because they want to keep fighting your battles for you. That shit is going to get old at some point because that shit is just going to get old. Um, And then Yandy asks Bambi what's going on and says, and then Bambi says everything, but then she points to Sierra and says that she broke the internet. And then they show clips and articles about Sierra and Scrappy getting into it and he calling her a bitch. And then Sierra tells the ladies about what happened with Scrappy and um how he was going in on Bam so bad and she just, clicked, and then he said that Bam was saying all this and all of that and all she saw was red. And then Bambi says that he's just like his mom and that the emotional incest in that family is absolutely disgusting. Hold up, bitch. Cause you wanted that nigga so bad and now you got him and you mad about how he's always been and how his mom has always been. Bam, please don't piss me off because this nigga's been the same. And you have just molded yourself to I don't even know what the word is. You molded yourself to comply with his lifestyle. And that is the part where it's like you have to meet somebody halfway. You have to compromise. You can't just bend to his will. And I know sometimes you don't even be noticing it because you just be wanting to be with somebody so bad. But don't do that. They are fucked up. Mommy D is Scrappy. They are fucked up. But don't act like you ain't know what was going on before you let that nigga plant some kids in you. Stop. But in her confessional, Bambi says that at the end of the day, his family loves drama, and what mother wants her son out here, looking crazy. And Rasheeda and Yandy go for their little spa. And Yandy tells Rasheeda that, she just walked in on a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you, Yandy and Rasheeda have been very dry for me so far, especially Yandy. I know they keep trying to show her, but it's been dry. But then Amy asked the remaining ladies if, in a strong group like theirs, do they think their requirements/standards are too high? And Jessica says, hell no, it's not high enough because they haven't set the standards high enough. And then Bambi says that she's a prime example of what you get when you don't keep your standards where they are supposed to be. And Jess says she is too. Bam says where they're supposed to be and keep them. So she had them at some point, but sometimes love just make you forget your morals. You know what I'm saying? And you don't fault her for that, but don't act like you ain't know that nigga and his mom have been off the wall before y'all even got together. Stop. But then Sierra mentions how Jasmine had her gender reveal, and Erica's like, she's pregnant? And then she was like, "Oh, Grandma Carly," and I was like, "Hold up, bitch, because you about to get a double whammy real quick. Don't try and go in on Carly too much." Because then Sierra tells Erica that her baby daddy was on some bullshit too. And I'm feeling like Sierra is just mad at all these niggas this season because she married that dumbass Eric. And I just can't. She can't take it out on every fucking body. And she goes in on Chaotic later on. And shout out to Haven because she was like, Sierra was wrong and Chaotic was right. And I hadn't watched the episode just yet, but you're absolutely right. She came at him wrong because he tried. Everybody was probably just drunk and didn't notice shit because even Scrappy was talking about, oh, he don't remember calling her a bitch when you apologize for calling her a bitch. Nigga, bye. But Sierra was telling Erica that Safaree was on some bullshit, and then Bambi asked Jessica what her interaction was with Safaree because she was talking to him before they got there. And then Jess says that she met him at the gender reveal and she kept telling him how, she knows his wife. And then Bambi says that Rennie felt like Safaree was being a little flirtatious. And then they show a clip from when Safaree was trying to get at Jess, saying that he needs a woman with her personality and understanding. And then Jessica says that it was indirect flirtation, but it wasn't anything that she was giving, so she brushed it off. And Minna asked Jess if she didn't flirt back. And Jess says no, she would never. And then Erica is basically giving Jess the evil eye stare down. And Jess says that she kept telling him that she knows his wife and she wanted him to know that. And then in her confessional, Erica Mena says she's going to give Jess the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, loyalty nowadays isn't really a thing, and she had to learn that the hard way many times. And then Sierra says Rainey said that she thought Safaree and Jess were flirting, And Sierra says, nah, Jessica wasn't being messy. And then Jess says that she was just having a conversation and that he was the only person there. Sierra says, well, Jess is just very like and then Bam says sensual and Jess says, she wasn't touching him or anything. And then they show a clip of her actually grabbing his hand, talking about, how strong it is and shit. And I'm like, girl, you kind of fucked up right there, but okay. And then Jess says, she's that way with women, being all touchy and shit. And then Erica is visibly getting, hyped listening to Jess fumble over her words and then asks Jess if she didn't think she was flirting even a little bit. And Jess says no and shrugs her shoulders. And in her confessional, Jessica says that her love language is physical touch and words of affirmation. And says everybody says she's flirtatious, but if she wanted to flirt with somebody, it sure as hell wouldn't be Safari. And then Yandy tells, this dry ass scene. Yandy tells Rasheeda that she and Mendices had been going through it a little bit and then tells her about the whole Shannon Sharp thing and how Judy, Medici's mom, is upset about it and how he's just going through so much, but she feels like he needs an outlet or something and she doesn't know what it could be. And in her confessional, Yandy says she's trying to be a supportive wife for Mendices, but it feels like he's letting the weight of the world tear him down and she doesn't know how to get him out of his funk. And then Yandy tells Rasheeda that Mendices and his mom still haven't talked because of the Shannon Sharp interview and says that it seems every little thing stresses him out and that he'll hold stuff in and then pop. And it's up to her to do everything and to be a stand up wife and mom. Wife, mom, and woman. And then Rasheeda tells Yandy that their husbands are going through, excuse me, that's my stomach. I'm hungry. I'm sorry I ain't eat yet. Rasheeda tells Yandy that their husbands are going through the same thing and says that it's always easy for men. And she includes Scrappy in this situation too and says that that's why he's trying to throw stones at Bambi and point the finger and says that they all just on some BS. And then we back to Jessica and Erica and them. Jessica says that she knows she wasn't flirting with Safari and that she's still healing from her ex and tells them that, they even talked about Nick, her and Safari, when he pushed her into telling him who her ex was. And she says that she doesn't really talk about it because she still has anxiety about the whole thing and she's dealing with some major shit, she says. Jessica says that when you're dealing with a powerful man, um, and because she has her own power, and then I guess she was trying to say it was taken, but then Amy says to Jess, she should still speak her truth whether she's powerful or not. And then Jessica says, but from her perspective, it's not about him. She's just always kept things private in her life between she and Nick, and she says she's always been politically correct when dealing with a bunch of drama behind the scenes. And in her confessional, Jess says that she feels completely misunderstood, and to be honest, is bringing up a bunch of BS, but nobody knows what's going on. And then Jess tells the ladies that she really just wants to move on and that she's fragile and that this stuff hurts her. And then Jess says that Nick does a good job at not saying anything and she looks like the one that's fixated on something, but she hasn't been able to release it yet. And then Erica Mena makes a sad face because she gets it. And then Jess says that she hasn't had public freedom and she doesn't think she ever will, but she's trying her hardest to heal privately. And then the ladies try to console her, and then Bambi says that she feels that that's very genuine. And in her confessional, Erica Mena says that when you're in love with the man and you're on that roller coaster he has you on, it's not easy, and says that, she's still going through it. And then the instructors come in at the perfect time, and then the ladies, get their massages or whatever. And then Yandy asks Amy how Atlanta has been treating her. Amy says so far good. And then they get into this conversation about 50-50 and 90-10 and 75-25 and how Amy wants 90-10 now, or 75-25, and Sierra's like she wants 90-10, and Yandy's trying to tell them that's not realistic when coming into a relationship, because some days it varies. It's not going to always be 50-50 or 90-10 or 80-20. Hashtag why did I get married? Um but and then they asked Yandy, oh, what you know about a situationship or whatever, and Rasheeda's just co-signing the mess. Rasheeda and Yandy are very dry this season so far. I don't. Ugh. Oh, anyways, Jessica and Erica are chatting about how Erica's been working so much, and she says she just finished, her stepmother movie. Shout out to Tubi, and now she has a surgery coming up for some fibroids that she needs to get taken care of once and for all. She says, and then Jessica explains how she has them too, and how she's was in the hospital because one erupted, and then she has to go in a few weeks to get hers removed. And in her confessional, Erica Mena says that she never would have thought that Jessica was going through fibroid issues, and she says that hearing so much about it since going through it, and that as women they don't realize how much stuff they can relate to each other on. And it's messed up because yeah, there's other things, and unfortunately it has to be, a physical, internal issue as a woman, but at least it's not, y'all fighting over sucking and fucking on the same niggas. Like, we need something different now, y'all, for real. Like, just cut it out. But then Jessica explains how her fibroid issues have gotten worse since her last miscarriage, and says that she has to do something before she removes everything and not ever have any kids. And then Bambi and Erica tell her no, not to do that because she still wants to give herself the opportunity. And then in her confessional, Jess says that she doesn't feel like herself, and she, isn't herself. And she says that she's sick and she's tired and she just wants to physically feel better, and her body can't deal with what it has been dealing with. And then Erica takes up the room saying that she's in her soft feminine woman era, and Jessica cheers, and Erica tells Jess that she enjoyed the spa and to be mindful of her sexiness because it can come across as flirting. And then she and Jess hold each other, and as they're walking out the door, Jess says that if she flirt with anybody, would be with Erica. And then we on the scene with Mendices and his mom, and they meet up. And I'm just gonna get go through this one real quick because Yandy and Mendices are dry. Like, I don't know. He talks to his mom. She explains how that whole situation with the interview really hurt her because she ain't know what to say, and then it was just too much. And then Mendices is like, he understands that, but that's just what it was, and they got to move forward and stop thinking about the past. And he's just like, whenever you need anything, who was there to make sure you good? And she's like, my son always makes sure I'm good. And he was like, exactly, that's how I was always going to be. And that's just what that is, because it was just a mess, child. Like, they'll be straight, they'll figure it out. But then now, ho child, we're with Khaotic. In his confessional, he's at his first video shoot for one of his songs, and he says he's super excited and he hopes everything goes well. And then Erica Banks walks up, and Khaotic is being dramatic on the megaphone announcing Erica, and then he hugs all on her, and I was just like, Amy gonna wild the fuck out. And then in her confessional, Erica Banks says that everybody wants to know what she and Khaotic are doing, and says that it's nothing crazy. They just scratching the surface a little bit, and that he's getting to know her. And then they kind of play around a little bit, and he's picking her up and shit. And then Amy is walking up, but Erica is telling Khaotic to put her down. And in her confessional, Amy says her walking up, seeing Khaotic hugging Erica Banks up in the air like they fucking in a corn video, if you know what I mean. She doesn't believe Erica. She does believe. She says that Erica Banks might be busting it wide open, and says that she sees what's going on, but she'll let it play out. And she says that they're definitely not sharing, so she's gonna let her have that for now. And then I mean, the way Chaotic was really like, mm, I don't know. Obviously, he's feeling Erica a little bit more than Amy, but he can really just let Amy know that. And then Amy walks up, and Chaotic puts Erica down, and Amy and Erica hug. And then Chaotic announces Amy somewhat of the same way he introduced Erica, just without the hugging and the dry humping. And then he says that Amy is there to learn the dance and says that Erica has already learned it. And then Amy says no. Chaotic told her that she would be the main video girl and that she wouldn't be out there too long. And then Chaotic gets dramatic and says, well, let me tell you something, Amy. He says that she is the main video girl, just as Erica is the main video girl. And then in her confessional, Amy says, Chaotic calls her a week before the video and he assured her that she would be the only girl in the video and says that she's not going to lie. She's looking at him like he definitely bamboozled her to come. Yeah, like, are you trying to flaunt that you fucking with Erica at her face? Like, that's kind of cruddy. But then Sierra pulls up, and in her confessional, she says Chaotic asked her to be in his video shoot, and she wanted to show up and be petty because he let her go through all that the other day with Scrappy Doo, and says that Chaotic let him jump all in her face, and says while he was saying he appreciates women, he doesn't really at all because he was a real man. Because if he was a real man, she says he would have jumped in between her and Scrappy and broke the whole situation up. Now I understand, but Sierra, you have to understand that you started that shit with Scrappy, not Chaotic. You saw that when Erica and Scrappy and Mama D started getting at it, Erica just shut the fuck up because Scrappy was digging in her ass about her son. But Sierra, she is just a big ball of energy, and maybe it is that Gemini in her, but she got to stop because that wasn't Chaotic's job to stop that shit. Maybe if you shut the fuck up, it would have calmed down. And I get it. You're not gonna let nobody yell at you. Sierra not gonna let Scrappy yell at her. Same way he's not gonna let her yell at him. But you was provoking that nigga. Like let's just stop. And obviously he don't know how to control himself, so stop. And then Sierra sees Amy and Erica and says that she didn't know that they would be there, and then she calls Chaotic and tells him that this isn't giving princess treatment, and then Chaotic is like, oh Sierra, let's talk, and Amy is like, she's really not trying to embarrass him in front of his little friends, and then all three ladies walk Chaotic over to another area, and in his confessional, he says that he invited Sierra to come and feel appreciated and that she's feeling the opposite. And why is she coming to fuck up the vibe? And asks, what did he do to her? Sierra says, let's get to the real point. And Chaotic says, right, the point is that Scrappy came for her. And Sierra says, yeah, he called her a bitch and jumped in her face and pushed her. And Chaotic stood right there. She's telling him, right beside her as that man says, he wanted he wants women to be appreciated. She's talking about Chaotic. She's like, you standing there, but you let him get in my face and shit. And Sierra says that she didn't feel appreciated. And Chaotic is trying to get his point across, but she just keeps running her fucking mouth. And then Chaotic asks Sierra, can he talk now? And then in his confessional, he says, he got in between them several times to try and stop, the both of them, which he did because I seen it. And then he says that, he's not going to risk his life or freedom over somebody who doesn't want to listen to him. And I agree, I get it. And then Chaotic tells Sierra that he told Scrappy several times to chill and says that at one point he did stand in between the both of them so they could chill the fuck out. And then Chaotic tells Scrappy that Scrappy wasn't just in her face, they were both geeking. Thank you, because let's be for real. He knows Scrappy's that's his man's or whatever, but Scrappy was fucked up, and if he can hold him accountable, he can hold Sierra accountable. Sierra is says, okay, but he's a man, and Chaotic says, but and he was dead wrong. And Sierra continues to say, so another man should have been able to get Scrappy out her face. And Chaotic tells Sierra that he's not her knight in shining armor. And both Erica Banks and Amy look gobsmacked when he said that. And then in her confessional, Sierra says that Chaotic just said he's not her knight in shining armor, and says that basically what he was saying was that because he not fucking her, it's not his place to stand up for her. And then Chaotic tells Sierra that this was between Scrappy and Bambi, and says that he didn't see Scrappy push her. In his confessional, Chaotic says that he told both of them to stop and nobody listened to him. So what was he, supposed to do? And then Sierra, he said that Sierra wasn't minding her business and that she's arguing with somebody about his wife and life and children, and says that sometimes you have to sit to the side and let her friend Bam take care of her business and, with her man. And I'm like, yeah, because Sierra's acting like a little bulldog, chihuahua type shit, just nipping at everybody who Bambi mad at, who associated with Scrappy. Like, girl, get the fuck on, man. You don't even do that for your own shit. But then Sierra asked Chaotic how he felt about Scrappy calling her bitch, and he said, and a hoe. I don't recall, look, I don't recall him calling her a hoe, but maybe that was some footage that they didn't show us. But then Chaotic says that he didn't hear Scrappy call her that, and Sierra rolls her eyes and says, "Oh wow." And then she says that she and the ladies look beautiful and that she doesn't have time for this, but she wanted to tell him that he was wrong. And then Amy says to Chaotic that, how Sierra's probably feeling is that as a woman, she probably wanted somebody to stop the confrontation with Scrappy. And the Chaotic says that there were several other men there that could have stopped it, so he doesn't know why they're coming at him. And either he's ignorant or it's the fact, that he just don't give a fuck. But black men only stick up for themselves. If it was Scrappy and another nigga scrapping, maybe some other dudes would have, tried to stick up for them other dudes and jumped in, because there's a whole bunch of niggas just fighting each other. But men don't stick up for black women like that. And I feel like Sierra was a part of the problem, but I get where she's coming from. Like, tell this nigga to chill the fuck out. But I don't know. This whole situation is messy. They was both, all of them was fucked up because I don't know. Chaotic could have did something. Y'all niggas not shit, bro. Like, y'all stood there and y'all, y'all let that happen. And yeah, she could have shut the fuck up because again, it's not her battle. So that's where Scrappy coming from. Like, this is not your situation. So why are you fighting about it? But even after all that stuff, y'all should have been like, Scrappy, chill the fuck out, nigga. Like, leave her alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody should have stopped it. And I get where Sierra's coming from. Now, her approach wasn't necessary, but somebody should have stopped it. And all them niggas was out there and wasn't trying to stop none of it. And she was expecting little Chaotic to stop Scrappy Doo's big ass from pouncing on her. Girl, bye. But then Chaotic, he's like, there were other people there, so somebody else could have jumped in. And he says it's like pulling a line off of a wildebeest when he's talking about Scrappy and the Sierra thing. It says that it was a lot of people there, and why is it all on him? And he was like, they must be attracted to him or something. And then Erica Banks rolls her eyes and turns away. And then Amy says, no, they're not. And they so aren't attracted to him that she turns to Erica and tells her that this is her video and to have fun. And then in her confessional, Amy says that Chaotic plays too much and that he air fucked Erica right in front of her, and that she's not worried about the fake princess treatment that he's giving her, so she gone. And then they try to go back to filming the video, but then Scrappy shows up, and Chaotic and Scrappy dap each other up, and Chaotic tells Scrappy that they need to talk ASAP. Scrappy is like, damn, in his confessional, he just got here just to support, Chaotic, and all of a sudden he pulls him to the side, as soon as he got there. And then Chaotic tells Scrappy that he doesn't know what just went down. And Scrappy was like, what? And Chaotic says that Sierra pulled up in the big boy truck to give him the business. And Scrappy rolls his eyes when Chaotic mentions Sierra. And then Chaotic explains to Scrappy how Sierra says that Chaotic let Scrappy call her bitch and that he left her for dead and all of that shit. Scrappy was like, he didn't even call her bitch. Yeah, you did. You must have been too drunk to remember, but you did. And then Chaotic says Sierra said he let Scrappy push her, and Scrappy says, when did he do that? And then they show a clip of him, like pushing her arm out the way. And then Chaotic says that he didn't stop her and Scrappy, from trying to fight and stuff. And she said from what she was saying, somebody was trying to hurt her. That's what Scrappy was saying. Like Sierra acting like he was really trying, press up on her. And then in his confessional, he says that he didn't do anything to her but defend himself, and that when she put her hands in his face and on him, he says that if you speaking to him crazy, he's going to give it right back, and that if he got to move somebody out his way to get out of his face, he will do that. And to show him some respect, he'll show you respect. And then Chaotic tells Scrappy that he's a big nigga, and Scrappy was like, "No, I'm not that big." And Chaotic was trying to get him to understand, like, "Yeah, nigga, you are." But then was trying to get him to understand, like, you fucked up a little bit. And in his confessional, Chaotic says Scrappy denies everything that happened, but says that Scrappy was wrong at some point. And this is what I'm saying. Sierra can't try and pull up to Chaotic's video shoot to call him out when she was also wrong. And Chaotic told her that they were both wrong. But it's one of them things where it's like, no, pick my side because I'm the woman and he's the man and he should have known better. I feel like she provoked him just a little bit, and yes, Scrappy could have, calmed himself down, but again, Chaotic was not the only one there who could have stopped that shit. Somebody else, it was hella niggas out there, hella heads, all them extras and shit. Like, come on, they could have stopped that. But then Scrappy tells Chaotic that how he feels is that if you give the same energy, you put out, that you're going to get it back, and that if somebody is screaming at him, he's going to scream back. And in his confessional, Scrappy says that he feels like Sierra was in the wrong and that she came to start shit with him, but about his business with his baby mama and his kids and all that, and that he's going to stand up for himself. And I'm like, yeah, you can't really get mad at people for how they react when you come at them sideways. It's not about like what you say, it's about how you say it. And at the club, that was not a time for him to want to hear that shit, especially after their mediation. He was all fucked up at the club with the glasses on because that nigga had been crying. Um, but then Scrappy says that as long as he's, not putting his hands on any women, he feels like he's good to defend himself. And then Chaotic tells Scrappy that he owes Sierra an apology, and Scrappy says, nah, she owes him one for being in his business. And then Chaotic says that they both need to hash this shit out. And then if he can talk to Sierra without matching her energy, because sometimes you gotta take that L. I'm sorry, I know as guys, y'all have a temperament, and when y'all get pissed, y'all just be mad, and niggas just be ready to fight. But at the same time, you do have to deal with women in a certain, way. Did y'all hear about that that boat fight in Alabama? Everybody was scrapping out there. But again, I do feel like Sierra was provoking him, and the energy was just all fucked up. Them niggas was drunk. But now we with Rasheeda and Yandy again. Yo, I'm gonna go through this quick because they dry. They're dry and it's annoying, and I just could do without them. But they sit down and they talk about what's going on, and Yandy is like, she's still real worried about what Spice said. And oh wait, no, this ain't even the right one. Hold up. This is when Rasheeda goes to Yandy's restaurant, and then she says Spice pulled up. Yeah. That's the next episode. Spice came to sit down with Yandy and Rasheeda, and in her confessional, she says that she hasn't seen them in a while and that she's just been going through a lot, so she needs some girls to help cheer her up a little bit and catch up. And Yandy tells them about the PR event with Scrappy and Sierra going off, and Erica Mena and Mama D going off, and all that shit. And Spice was like, Erica's going off? Like, what's going on? And Yandy says, yeah. And then all she heard was, don't mention my kids. And then Mama D jumped in, and then Sierra jumped in, and then they mentioned the whole Mama D saying that Scrappy got Diamond pregnant. And then Spice gets up all dramatic, talking about, so Diamond's pregnant? Like, she's real shocked and dramatic. And Yandy was like, they don't know for sure. But it came from Mama D's mouth. And then Yandy asks Spice, how she's been, and Spice says that she's okay, she's just grateful. And Rasheeda says, stop the BS, what's going on? And Yandy was like, yeah, we can see it all over your face. And Spice says that she's it's not going well for her, and she tells them about the other hernia and that it was bigger than the other one, than the first one. And then Rasheeda asked Spice, if she's for real, and asked her how does she keep getting them. Spice says it's because they opened her chest up and they didn't sew her back up, so she's left with a big hole in her stomach. And then she tells the ladies that she feels like she's gonna die early. And both Rashida and Yandy tell her, not to say that. And I feel so bad for Spice. She just going through so much. But then in her confessional, Yandy says that she hates to hear that Spice has another hernia. Like, of course you would, because she literally almost died the first time. But then Rashida tells Spice that, and she can't talk like that. And then she goes to hug her. And Spice says, that's just how she feels. And then her daughter calls her, and you can tell it cheered her up a little bit. And she answers and tells her daughter that she called her back. But then Spice gasps like real loudly. And then she asks her daughter what's wrong with her. And then both Yandy and Rashida are looking worried and concerned because like Spice can't take much more. She need a break. It's every time she turn around is something. But then Spice tells her daughter to let her see her face, and then she turns her head, and her daughter's left eye is swollen, and Spice says that she's catching a flight immediately. And then she tells the ladies that she has to go, and she feels like she's gonna pass out, and that every day is something else. And then in her confessional, Spice says that she doesn't know if her daughter's throat is going to close up and that she might not be able to breathe. And Spice says that she's in panic mode right now and she's just trying to catch a flight and she can't even think or react. And she says only mothers can relate to that. And then Spice asks her sister, is she going to take her daughter to the doctor or something? And her sister tells Spice that she has it. And Spice just bends down, crying and saying that every day is something else. And then that's basically the end of that episode. Um, Chow. Khaotic gonna get caught the fuck up with both Amy and Erica. Like he not even trying to hide it at this point. That's one thing. I still feel like Scrappy lying about Diamond, but this nigga gonna front regardless. I still feel like Bambi is using Erica, Minna, and Sierra and all her friends as little, pit bulls to go nitpick with Scrappy and shit, and that's starting to really get old. And what else? Oh yeah. I feel like both Sierra and Scrappy were wrong, but she definitely provoked that nigga. But thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this review, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you on the next one.